There is a very clever new scam going around that you definitely need to know about. Or should I say it's an old scam that's becoming newly popular again. I've seen it being called the delayed disconnect scam, but basically it takes advantage of a lesser known feature in some phone systems to trick you. And the worst part about it is they can trick you doing this even if you do everything completely right, so it won't even be your fault, so you really need to know about it in order to defeat it. So first, here's how the scam goes, and then I'll go over how it actually works. So you get a phone call from someone claiming to be from your bank. They tell you your card has been compromised, your card has been hacked, whatever, the usual, and they tell you, you know what, you need to contact the number on the back of your card, which is exactly what you're supposed to do. So then you do that, you hang up, you call the number on the back of your card, correctly by the way, you call the correct number. So after dialing, someone picks up and they say, hi, this is whatever bank. But at this point, you have already been tricked. You are still talking to the scammer. Wait a minute, how did that just happen? So here's how the scam works. The first key to understand is that this is only going to potentially happen on landlines. You see, a lot of landline phone systems do not actually disconnect the call right away after you hang up the phone. Depending how the phone company has your specific system set up, if you, as the receiving party, hang up the call, however, the other caller does not hang up on the other end, then it will stay connected for anywhere from a couple seconds to several minutes until the original caller disconnects or that timer is reached. So in the meantime, if they didn't hang up, if you pick up the phone again, you'll still be talking to that same person. So what the scammer does is after they hear you hang up, they'll start playing a fake dial tone. So then when they hear you pick up again to call the number on the back of the card like you're supposed to, then they'll just stop the dial tone and then pretend to pick up as the bank. And obviously what's especially bad about this is you can do everything right and still be tricked if you just didn't know. So let me go over a few ways you can easily defeat the scam, and then afterwards we can talk a little bit more about this so-called feature and why it exists. Now the first way to avoid this scam, first of all, if you receive the call on your cell phone, then hanging up right away immediately disconnects the call. You don't have to worry about it. If you receive the call on a landline, what you can do is call using a totally different landline if you happen to have two, or more likely use a cell phone to call the number on the back of the card, not the landline you just received the call on. If you don't have a cell phone, you only have that landline, and you don't know how long the timer is for your particular phone company in your area, then you have no choice really but to wait 10 or 15 minutes even to be sure that that call was disconnected. One thing you could do is call your phone company to ask what this delay disconnect time is, though you might have to go through a few people before they know what you're talking about. Or alternatively, you could have a friend call you. I don't know if this has to be done by the friend having a landline or cell phone, but you can have them call you, then you hang up and they stay on the line and basically time for you how long it takes until they start to hear a dial tone, which means that that's the amount of time that anyone is going to have to wait for the disconnect, and then you know. Also, one thing you could do to test it after not waiting the full amount of time is to dial a number that you know already, like maybe your friend's phone number. And then, obviously, if the scammer picks up again, or someone picks up saying, hi, this is your bank, while you just called your friend's phone number, then you know it's the scammer, and then you know that it was a scam. Now, you might be wondering, why does this feature even exist? It sounds like a nightmare in security. Well, I found a couple reasons. The first being the idea is you could hang up the phone and then pick it up in another room to continue a conversation without the other person having to call you again. And this was probably before cordless phones were a thing. Another reason that does make sense actually is so that if there was a weak connection between the two lines and it was cutting out, it wouldn't hang up every time there was a weak signal that occurred. But still, that would kind of not explain why it would go on for several minutes, maybe like a few seconds tops in there. But there are other big questions like, why does the call remain connected with a delay only if the receiving party hangs up? And why does it disconnect immediately when the original party hangs up? Why not the other way around? And why are there different delayed times? So let me get into explaining all that. Now, it actually took me quite a bit of digging to find out more details about this so-called feature or quirk of a phone system, whatever you want to call it, beyond what just some of the basic news articles were talking about when they were referring to the scam. And all the articles that I was reading about it referred to this feature as delayed disconnect, but it turns out that that's not actually the name of this feature. One extremely informational bit of info I found was from from a scanned PDF of this obscure book that I found on Google Books, and it was called the Informatics Handbook. In one section, it describes the term call clearing, which basically is how the phone system disconnects the lines depending on conditions. It says call clearing, aka clear down or tear down, the orderly disengagement of a call in a switched network. Later on, here's the key though. It says, note that 3 different control approaches are used in telephone systems. First, the calling party clear approach, where the call is only cleared when the calling A party puts down the handset. Then there's the called party clear approach, where the call is cleared when the B party puts down the handset. And third, the first party clear, where the call is cleared when either puts the phone down. It then elaborates, the A party clear approach means that the receiver can put down the handset and move to another phone extension without losing the call. However, it leaves B party vulnerable to having a phone unable to receive calls if the A party does not hang up correctly. There are also implications in hacker scams involving entry into systems requiring callback procedures. So even in 1996, when this book was written, 25 years ago, they already realized that this feature could be potentially used to scam people. So if you have a landline, this is definitely something you want to know. Which of the approaches your phone system from your phone company uses? Obviously, it sounds like first party clear makes the most sense. If either party hangs up, then the phone call should end. Even called party clear would be better. I mean, if you think about it, if you're the person who's receiving the calls, you don't really have control over who's calling you and how many times they call you, so you should definitely have control over whether or not you want to end those calls. So then why do phone companies even have this calling party clear approach? Well, apparently the logic is that the original caller is the one who's paying the bill and they're paying for the call, so they should theoretically be able to control when the call ends, but that still seems completely backwards to me. If someone receiving the call doesn't want to talk, then they should be able to end it. And I think most people will probably agree with me. I also did some more digging and found that the term used for the condition on a phone system where the called party hangs up but the line remains connected is something named called subscriber held, or CSH. And it turns out this phone system behavior or feature is pretty ancient. I even found it in this document about phone systems from 1941. So this has been around for a long time. So assuming a landline has called party clearing, how long is the actual delay? And like I mentioned before, that's going to depend on your phone company and potentially even the system that your local area phone system uses. And I already talked about the options where you can call your phone company, hope that the person knows what you're talking about, or maybe have a friend test it with you and time it themselves. But again, I'm not 100% sure if this behavior still happens if the original caller is calling from a cell phone or if it has to be both people on a landline. Now, I wanted to know what the actual name of this delay or timer was so that if you called your phone company, you could specifically ask about it, but I couldn't really seem to find any universal name for it. Now, in the United Kingdom, at least, I was able to find a document from the NICC, which talks about UK interoperability standards, and they refer to it as the CSH timeout, called subscriber held. We mentioned that before. And it actually does have a specification called timer TO-01. And it looks like the NICC set a possible range that phone companies could choose for this timer, and it could be anywhere from 2 seconds to 3 minutes. And again, this is only in the UK. In the United States, I've seen cases where it could be longer, so it's not going to apply everywhere. Also in this document, I found another timer called TO-03, which is apparently a backup timer in case the signal for the 01 timer failed to get sent or something. And again, everything in here seems to only apply to the UK, so this TO-01 timer might not be used anywhere else except in the UK. However, there was one statement by a Canadian telecom company called Shaw, where in their statement they referred to it as the call clearing delay time, and this is actually the same term used by British Telecommunications in their press release when they reduced that time. So it seems like this could be a pretty good term to use. Hopefully that now this scam is getting a lot more press attention, companies will kind of follow suit from the UK and reduce this greatly if they still have it implemented. There was actually one pretty major news story done in Canada, and the news agency CTV contacted several different companies in Canada to ask what their delay time was, and they got some responses. So Shaw Company did say that they will shorten the timer to combat the fraud, though they didn't give a specific number. Two other companies they contacted, TELUS and Rogers, said that theirs disconnect after 10 seconds, and one company, Bell, didn't say at all. Now, I was actually curious what the deal was in the United States, so I tried contacting AT&T and Verizon via support chat. Those are two really big companies in the US, and actually got responses. So here was my question. It was, hi, I'm trying to find out the call clearing delay time for landlines, meaning how long a phone call stays connected after the receiving party hangs up. Verizon said, thank you for reaching out to us. This varies from call to call, actually. Many things go into how long a line remains engaged after the call is completed and terminated by the handset. Cellular lines will disconnect and terminate faster than a traditional copper line would, but generally the line is terminated within 1 to 2 seconds. AT&T's response was this: the call will get disconnected right away after the receiving party hangs up. So assuming the representative knew exactly what I was talking about, it sounds like these companies use either first-party clearing or a very, very short disconnect time. But it maybe would still be worth it to test it out yourself just to be sure. In any case though, now that you at least know about this scam, you can be prepared for it if it ever happens to you. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you still have a landline, did you know that this was a thing that could happen with your phone line? Also, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe because I try to make a couple videos a week, so it should be worth it. If you guys want to keep watching, the next video I'd recommend is where I was talking about new scams in 2021. So definitely check that out. It should be worth a watch. You can just click on it right there. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.